Welcome back to another episode of Books and Buds, where we discuss two of the greatest things ever put on the planet Earth: books and buds. Books because books are just awesome, and I don't know where I'd be in my life without them. And buds because we are sponsored by Burning Bush, and we proudly represent their products. A little bit of, on the bud front. Our Sour Freedom and our Dr. Freedom, what we did was we crossed Sour Bubble with Freedom 45, and we crossed Freedom 45 with Doctor Who. We just got a wonderful response. We're already all out of the Doctor Who. People just really wanted it. People love Sour Bubble. People love Doctor Who. So when they found out we crossed it with Freedom 45, they were intrigued. So we don't have too much left of that. We got a few ounces here, and we got about a quarter of a pound here. Sour Diesel, that was another huge hit. We did run a little bit of those in our last run because people were a little more surprised with it than we thought they were going to be. We still have a couple of those left, but I promise you guys, we are running this stuff. We will have more for you very soon. We are also getting our Jelly Bean back up and running. We are getting our Baby Lisa back up and running. And we're expanding a little bit our Girl Scout cookies and the Gorilla Glue, which has changed its name due to some sort of copyright infringement or something like that. But anyways, it's Gorilla Glue. We'll be releasing some more of that stuff to you guys soon, too. Okay, so you probably clicked on today's channel because you wanted to hear what we had to say about Guy. Now, I'm going to try to say her name. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. Jowita Bydlowska. But my girlfriend Patty and I, we enjoy traveling quite a bit. And we were in Montreal a couple years ago. What I like to do when I go on vacation is I like to buy a book or two so I have a souvenir. And anytime I want to relive that wonderful vacation, those memories, I just kind of pick up the book and I'll read it again. And I'm right back to those wonderful memories. I'm enjoying Montreal all over again. So several years down the road, I'll probably read this one again and relive those nice experiences. And this book delivered. I picked it up because the cover was just so interesting. I'd never heard of this writer before, and I liked what the back cover said, so I decided to give her a read. I just like to give new authors a try once in a while, see if it's someone I'm going to be interested in. I'll be following Jowita's career. So this book, I'll give you a little bit of a brief description of what it's about. It's about this guy named Guy, and he's a complete misogynist. And it fits in really good with a lot of today's current events because we talk about toxic masculinity a lot, and I wasn't really sure what toxic masculinity is either. I'm a guy, and I support masculinity. You need to have masculine and feminine features in this world to make it all work. There's a nice balance of yin and yang in the universe. But reading this book gave me a good understanding of what people might mean when they're talking about toxic masculinity, because this guy has an obsession with rating women by their looks mentally, between the scale of 1 to 10. And what he does is he likes to actually hook up with the ones lower on that scale. He really likes the girls that are between a 2 and a 4. So because he gets like an ego kick if he messes around with one of them because he feels like he's doing them a favor. And it makes him feel good because he is toxic masculinity. He's doing the world a favor. He's doing something good for these women by sleeping with them, making them feel pretty for an hour or something like that. It's kind of gross. But this kind of novel needed to be written by a woman. I realized that when I finished reading it because I kind of get an idea of what women think about when they think about these kinds of men. Because a lot of women are attracted to that confident masculinity, and I understand that. I'm attracted to a feminine woman. That's what I have with my girlfriend. She's very feminine, and I just adore her. She's very complimentary to my masculinity. However, this is a book about revenge. And it's really intriguing because I can see why a woman would want to get revenge on a guy like Guy. So what the main character does is he fools around with one of these girls, and she's in love with him, and she ends up calling him and blah, blah, blah. Well, he's not calling her back. He never calls any of these girls back. He's actually a talent agent. And what he does is he dates models briefly. He doesn't really love any of them or anything, but he wants to be seen in the spotlight with the beautiful woman. He dates pop stars, which are also his clients. And he's such a jerk that one of his clients, after he'd used and abused her, well, she's still his client, so they still have to work together. She develops cancer. And instead of giving a damn about this woman at all, he sees it as an opportunity to make some money. So she gets her head shaved because, the chemotherapy and everything else, and he uses it. And instead of being a pop star, he gives her a guitar and has her do some folk stuff, changes her image completely. And it's a success. A bunch of girls show their support by shaving their heads, and it's a wonderful thing. However, when you realize the stuff that was going on behind the scenes to make this beautiful movement, it's like, wow, this guy didn't really care at all about this girl or her cancer, doesn't care about the fans. He really is a toxic, masculine figure. So, a good friend of the girl that he had treated like crap towards the beginning of the novel, she's one of the girls that shaves her head. So the guy doesn't recognize her, and she comes into the picture, and he kind of likes her because she's a little bit aloof and everything else, and she's not the attractive type that he goes for because, again, he thinks he's doing this girl a favor by being with her. So he hooks up with her, and she ends up being the one to ditch him like she did him a favor. Now, having a huge ego on him, he can't have that. So he makes an effort to get her back, and she's like, all right, fine, I'll come back to your place again. So now all of a sudden he's like, oh, she's doing me a favor, huh? Well, I'm going to show her the sex of her life. Very, very egotistical, very arrogant. She ends up saying, hey, I want you to choke me. So he's like, well, okay, that's kind of weird, but whatever. He ends up choking her, and she's like, harder, harder. So now he's a little bit scared, but he's giving her what he wants because he really wants to make sure he leaves a positive impression on this woman because he's got that huge ego, very toxic, and she never calls. So he's going out of his way to find this girl. This guy's dating models, he's dating pop stars, but now all of a sudden he's intrigued with this girl that's giving him exactly what he's given to everyone else. So it's a nice little twist. He finally runs into her, and she makes sure they go to a nice public place. She's like, hey, I just want to make sure that you're not a maniac. You're not the kind of guy that's going to be violent to me, right? Because we're in a public place. And he's like, yeah, why? She's like, because I want to let you know that I brought you up on charges of rape. And I have the strangle marks to prove it. So she set him up. And that's when she reveals that, hey, remember that girl that you screwed over at the beginning of the summer? That was my good friend. How do you like it? So it's really wonderful. I won't give away what he does at the end. But it was really wonderful because you get to see, like, a lot of the way women might feel about these men. This is a great revenge story. And women aren't physically able to dominate men. But they can outsmart us. And I'm telling you guys, be careful because women out there with this Me Too movement, they'll get you. So I think I'd rather be beaten up than have my name and reputation dragged through the mud. So be very, very careful with how you treat women, fellas, because they're smart. And with this Me Too movement, they're not taking that nonsense anymore. So that's one of the reasons I try to promote books like this. Books from authors like Jowita, Bydlowska. Again, I apologize if I'm messing up the name Jowita. Because it gives you an opportunity to see life in a way that you might otherwise not know about. Me, I'm a guy. I don't really know the way women think. I can ask them how they think, but I can also read a book by a woman like her, a book like Guy. So it's just a great way to get to understand the people in the world that you share this world with. Before I leave you guys, I'd like to share a line that I thought really stuck out. It has nothing really to do with that, but it just made me think. I think about my mother and father. My mother and father having their little fights right before they'd be due to go somewhere, where they'd have to pretend that nothing had happened, hating each other politely the whole evening. At parties, they were probably surrounded by others who had committed similar offenses before going out, all of them in the same room, rooms full of offenders and the offended. That kind of gives you an idea of what this guy is like, how he thinks. He just doesn't think men and women can get along. He thinks that all relationships are crap. And everyone out there in the whole world is just pretending to be happy. That's completely false. And that is some pretty toxic masculine thinking. Because I'll tell you what, I've been in some relationships with women that I shouldn't have been in a relationship with. It didn't work out. You move on. There's no sense just being in a relationship and trying to control one another, because that's gonna lead to some bad experiences. But I guess a guy that has a huge ego like that, some toxic masculinity traits, isn't going to be able to think like that. Well, let's just move on so I can find someone that does compliment me and I compliment her. Let's be happy. Life's too short to be miserable. Be with people that complete you. So another reason that stuck out to me is there really actually people out there like that? I mean, I've definitely been in arguments with my significant other and had to play along like nothing happened because we're in a social gathering. But that's very far and few between if you're in love with somebody. You usually straighten these issues out. And certainly you get along at the event because when the event's over, you're going to talk about it. And you're going to be happy and in love again. It's just, that's how responsible relationships work as far as my experience goes. And I grew up with two loving parents that did the same thing. They talked. So it was very interesting to get a female's perspective on toxic masculinity. That's one of the reasons I highly recommend this book. I'll be leaving a link for it in the description below. And that's about it for today. I'd like to take a second to thank every single one of you who popped into my channel, giving books like this an opportunity. I'd also like to take a minute to reach out to all the independent authors that have been reaching out to me and asking me to read their books. I'm in the process of reading several books by several independent authors, not just for Rhetoric Skew Publishing, who I write for. My book Corpse Lily is coming out soon. But there's been several people who self-publish or who write for other independent publishing houses that have been reaching out to me. It's very tough to get to you all, but I'm trying, and I will have some of those videos coming out soon. Thank you very much for joining us on Books and Buds. We'll be talking to you soon. I love you guys. Stay cool.